Part 1. The Weight of Success. Emma Lawson sat in her plush office chair, the city skyline of Houston spread out behind her in a blur of steel and glass. The view was magnificent, high-rise buildings standing tall and proud against the backdrop of a cloudless blue sky. But it all felt strangely hollow. Her gaze lingered on the horizon, her mind drifting far away from the numbers flashing on her laptop screen. She had built a career most people could only dream of. At 28, she was the youngest vice president at a prestigious marketing firm, respected and admired for her work ethic, sharp mind, and unyielding dedication. She had everything: a corner office, a six-figure salary, and a fiancé who looked perfect on paper. So why did she feel so empty? The soft chime of her office phone snapped Emma out of her thoughts. She glanced at the screen, the caller ID showing the name she knew so well. "Hi, Trevor," she answered, forcing a smile into her voice. "Hey, babe," came her fiancé's smooth baritone. "Just calling to remind you about the charity gala tonight. I've confirmed our attendance, so I'll send the driver to pick you up at 7. "Right, the gala," Emma murmured, rubbing her temples. "I almost forgot." "You're always so busy," Trevor said with a chuckle. "But that's what I love about you. Always focused, always driven. Anyway, I've got to run. See you tonight. Love you." "Love you too," Emma replied automatically before hanging up. She stared at the phone for a long moment, a bitter taste in her mouth. She couldn't remember the last time she had looked forward to an event with Trevor. Everything felt so orchestrated, like she was playing a part in a perfectly scripted play. Smile. Nod. Say the right things. Be the perfect partner. With a sigh, she pushed away from her desk and stood up. Maybe she just needed a change of scenery. She grabbed her coat and headed down to the street, the bustle of the city greeting her with its familiar noise and energy. She found herself walking without a clear destination, her feet leading her through the crowded sidewalks and busy intersections. Lost in thought, she almost didn't notice when she passed by a small art gallery tucked between two larger, more imposing buildings. It was a quaint little place, with a faded wooden sign that read "Brushstrokes Art Gallery" hanging above the entrance. Something about it caught her attention, and she hesitated. Emma had always loved art. There was a time, back in college, when she'd even dreamed of becoming an artist. She'd spent hours in front of a canvas, lost in the world of colors and textures, creating pieces that reflected her innermost thoughts and emotions. But then life had taken over: deadlines, career ambitions, societal expectations, and she had put her brushes away, telling herself that art was just a hobby, not something she could pursue seriously. But now, standing in front of the gallery, she felt a strange pull. Before she knew it, as she was pushing the door open, the soft chime of a bell announcing her arrival. The gallery was small but charming, filled with vibrant paintings and sculptures that seemed to whisper stories of passion and creativity. Emma wandered through the space, her fingers lightly brushing against the frames of the paintings as she moved from one piece to another. And then she saw it. A painting hanging at the far end of the room, partially obscured by a larger canvas. It was a simple piece, a field of wildflowers swaying in the breeze, the colors bold and alive. But there was something about it that made Emma's breath catch in her throat. It reminded her of her own work, of the paintings she used to create, full of raw emotion and unbridled energy. "Beautiful, isn't it?" a voice said softly from behind her. Emma turned to see a man standing there, his dark hair slightly tousled, his eyes warm and thoughtful. He looked to be in his early 30s, dressed casually in a worn denim jacket and jeans. There was a paintbrush sticking out of his back pocket, and a smudge of green paint on his cheek. "Yes, it is," Emma murmured, still staring at the painting. "It's inspiring." The man smiled, his gaze shifting to the painting. "It's one of my favorites too. It has a certain freedom to it. Like the flowers are dancing." Emma glanced at him, surprised. "Are you the artist?" He chuckled, shaking his head. "No, just an admirer. I'm Oliver, by the way." "Emma," she said, holding out her hand. "It's nice to meet you, Oliver." He took her hand, his grip firm but gentle. "Likewise. So, what brings you here, Emma?" "Looking for a new piece for your collection." Emma hesitated, unsure of how to answer. I just wandered in. I haven't really thought about art in a long time." "That's a shame," Oliver said softly. "Art has a way of speaking to the parts of us we sometimes forget exist." His words struck a chord deep within her, and she found herself nodding slowly. "Yeah, I guess it does." They fell into an easy conversation, talking about the different pieces in the gallery, their favorite artists, and the stories behind the paintings. Emma was surprised at how comfortable she felt with Oliver, how easily the words flowed between them. It was as if they were old friends reconnecting after a long time apart. After a while, Oliver glanced at his watch and winced. "I should get going." "But hey, the gallery is hosting an art workshop this weekend. It's open to anyone, no experience required. You should come." Emma hesitated, a familiar voice in the back of her mind reminding her that she had no time for such frivolous things. She had work, responsibilities, obligations. But another part of her, a part she had long ignored, whispered something different. "Yes," she found herself saying. "I'd love to." Oliver's smile widened, his eyes lighting up. "Great. I'll see you there." As she left the gallery and made her way back to her office, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted within her. It was a small shift, like the gentle turning of a key in a lock, but it was there. She glanced at her phone, noticing several missed calls and messages from Trevor, reminding her about the gala and asking if she'd be on time. For the first time, she felt a pang of resentment. She didn't want to spend the evening smiling and nodding at strangers, making small talk about business deals and charity projects she had no real connection to. She wanted to go back to the gallery. To feel that spark of inspiration again. To paint, to create, to let her heart speak through colors and shapes. But she pushed the thought aside and made her way back to the office. There were still hours of work to finish before she could leave for the gala. She was Emma Lawson, the successful businesswoman, the perfect partner, the woman who had it all together. And yet, as she sat down at her desk and glanced out at the city skyline once more, she couldn't help but wonder if she was also Emma Lawson, the woman who was slowly losing herself. The question lingered in her mind as she finished up her work and prepared for the evening ahead. As she slipped into the elegant black dress Trevor had chosen for her and put on the diamond earrings he had gifted her for her last birthday, she felt like she was donning a costume. The real Emma, the one who used to dream of colors and creativity, was buried somewhere deep beneath the surface. By the time the car arrived to take her to the gala, Emma was smiling again, her mask firmly in place. But as she stared out the window, her thoughts drifted back to the small art gallery, to the wildflowers dancing in the breeze, and to a man with paint on his cheek and a quiet passion in his eyes. She wondered if she'd made the right choice. If the path she had chosen was truly the one she wanted to be on. And for the first time in a long time, she wasn't sure. Part 2. A brush with the past. The charity gala was just as glamorous as Emma had expected. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers, their crystal droplets casting dancing lights across the sea of elegantly dressed guests. The air buzzed with polite laughter, the soft clink of champagne glasses, and the murmur of well-practiced conversations. Emma moved through the crowd like a practiced performer, her smile never faltering as she greeted acquaintances, shook hands with business partners, and exchanged pleasantries with people she barely knew. Trevor was by her side, as always, his arm looped loosely around her waist. He was the epitome of sophistication in his tailored tuxedo, his dark hair perfectly styled, his every gesture exuding confidence and control. They made a striking pair, and more than one guest glanced their way with admiration and a hint of envy. But Emma felt like she was floating outside her own body, watching the scene unfold as if it were happening to someone else. Everything seemed so far away, distant, almost surreal. "Emma, darling, are you all right?" Trevor's voice broke through her thoughts, and she turned to look at him. He was watching her with a raised eyebrow, a faintly amused smile on his lips. "Of course," she replied automatically, forcing her smile to widen. "Just a little tired, that's all." Trevor's smile softened slightly, and he leaned in to press a kiss to her temple. "You work too hard, babe. But that's why you're so successful. You know what they say, no pain, no gain." Emma nodded absently, her gaze drifting over Trevor's shoulder to the ornate paintings that adorned the walls of the ballroom. They were beautiful, meticulously crafted by renowned artists, but they felt cold and lifeless. The colors, though expertly blended, lacked the vibrancy and emotion she had seen in the gallery earlier that day. She found herself thinking about the workshop Oliver had mentioned. What would it be like to pick up a brush again? To feel the smooth texture of paint beneath her fingers, to lose herself in the swirl of colors and let her emotions spill onto the canvas. "Trevor, do you ever think about doing something different?" she asked suddenly, surprising herself as much as him. He blinked, clearly taken aback. "Different? What do you mean?" "You know, stepping away from work for a while. Doing something you love, just for the sake of it." Trevor's brow furrowed slightly, his smile fading into a look of mild confusion. "I love what I do, Emma. That's why I'm successful. Why would I want to step away from that?" Emma opened her mouth, then closed it again, realizing she didn't have a good answer. She turned away, her gaze drifting back to the paintings. "Never mind," she murmured. "I was just thinking out loud." Trevor studied her for a moment, then shook his head with a chuckle. "You're overthinking again. Just relax, enjoy the evening." With that, he turned to greet another couple who had approached them, seamlessly slipping back into his role as the charming host. Emma stayed by his side, her smile plastered in place, but her mind was miles away. By the time they returned to their penthouse apartment later that night, Emma felt drained. She slipped out of her dress and into a comfortable robe, her muscles aching with the effort of maintaining her facade of composure. Trevor was already on the phone, his voice brisk and authoritative as he discussed some business deal. He barely glanced at her as she passed by, heading into her studio, the one room in the apartment that felt like it truly belonged to her. The studio was spacious and bright, with large windows that offered a stunning view of the city below. Canvases, easels, and paint supplies filled the space, but everything was covered in a thin layer of dust. Emma hadn't touched any of it in years. She had always told herself she was too busy, that she had outgrown her artistic ambitions. But now, standing in the middle of the room, she felt a pang of longing so sharp it almost took her breath away. Slowly, she walked over to an old, unfinished painting propped up in the corner. It was a landscape, a field of wildflowers bathed in the soft light of dusk. The colors were muted, blending into one another with a dreamlike quality. Emma had started it years ago, back when she still believed she could balance her love for art with the demands of her career. She reached out, her fingers brushing lightly over the dried paint. The texture was rough and uneven, but beneath it, she could feel the pulse of her younger self, the girl who had dared to dream, who had believed she could create something beautiful. But that girl was gone, buried beneath layers of responsibilities and expectations. Or was she? The question lingered in Emma's mind as she picked up a brush, turning it over in her hand. A part of her wanted to dip it in paint and finish what she had started all those years ago. But another part, an equally strong part, was afraid. Afraid that she had lost whatever spark she once had. Afraid that her passion for art had withered away, leaving nothing but an empty shell behind. With a sigh, she set the brush down and turned away, retreating to the bedroom where Trevor had already fallen asleep. She climbed into bed beside him, staring up at the ceiling, the shadows of the city lights dancing across the room. She thought of Oliver, of the quiet conviction in his voice when he had spoken about art speaking to the forgotten parts of ourselves. He had seemed so at ease, so in tune with his own creativity. What would it feel like to be that free? To let go of the expectations and just be? The thought stayed with her as she drifted into a restless sleep, her dreams filled with swirling colors and unfinished paintings that seemed to reach out to her, beckoning her to come closer. The weekend came faster than Emma had expected, and before she knew it, she was standing outside Brushstrokes Art Gallery once again, her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. She had almost backed out, almost convinced herself that she had no business attending an art workshop when she hadn't picked up a brush in years. But something had pulled her here, a quiet voice inside that urged her to take the leap, to see if there was still something left of the girl who had once dreamed of becoming an artist. Taking a deep breath, Emma pushed the door open and stepped inside. The gallery was alive with activity. People of all ages were gathered around tables set up with paints, brushes, and blank canvases. The atmosphere was warm and welcoming, filled with the sound of laughter and the soft murmur of conversation. Emma hesitated at the entrance, feeling out of place amidst the creative energy buzzing around her. "Emma! You made it!" She looked up to see Oliver walking toward her, his face lighting up with a genuine smile. He was dressed in a simple t-shirt and jeans, a paint-stained apron tied loosely around his waist. He looked completely at home, as if he belonged here in a way Emma hadn't felt she belonged anywhere in a long time. "Hi, Oliver," she said, her voice sounding a little breathless even to her own ears. "Hi, wasn't sure if I'd actually come." "I'm glad you did," he said warmly. "Come on, I'll show you around." He led her through the workshop, introducing her to a few of the other participants and explaining the basics of the day's activity. Emma listened, nodding along, but her attention kept drifting back to Oliver. There was a calmness about him, a sense of peace that seemed to radiate from him. It was as if he carried his own sense of contentment wherever he went. "How long have you been doing this?" Emma asked as they settled at a table with blank canvases in front of them. "The workshops." "A couple of years," Oliver said, glancing around with a fond smile. "It started as a way to give back to the community. I wanted to create a space where people could connect with art, regardless of their skill level." "That's amazing," Emma murmured, genuinely impressed. "I wish I had the courage to do something like this." Oliver's gaze sharpened, and he turned to face her fully. "What's stopping you?" Emma blinked, caught off guard by the directness of his question. What do you mean?" "What's stopping you from picking up a brush and painting again?" he asked gently. "You clearly have a passion for art. I can see it in your eyes. So why not let yourself create?" Emma stared at him, her mind racing. No one had ever asked her that before. No one had ever seen past the polished exterior to the person she used to be. "I guess I'm afraid," she admitted softly. "Afraid that I'm not good enough. That it's too late." "It's never too late," Oliver said firmly. "And good enough for who? Art isn't about perfection. It's about expression. It's about letting go." Emma's gaze dropped to the blank canvas in front of her. Could she really do this? Could she let go of the fear and just paint? With a deep breath, she picked up a brush and dipped it in paint. The color was bold and bright, and as she brought the brush to the canvas, she felt a rush of something powerful and exhilarating. She felt free. Part 3. Rediscovering the artist within. As the bristles of the brush touched the canvas, Emma felt a shiver of anticipation course through her. She hesitated, unsure of where to begin. The blank surface seemed to mock her, daring her to make the first mark, to commit to something tangible. But Oliver's words echoed in her mind. Art isn't about perfection. It's about expression. With a deep breath, Emma closed her eyes for a moment and let her instincts guide her. She dipped the brush into a vibrant shade of red and swept it across the canvas in a broad, fluid stroke. The colors seemed to come alive under her touch, and she found herself adding more: blue, green, yellow, each color blending into the next in a chaotic but beautiful dance. Slowly, the blank canvas began to transform, taking on shapes and forms that reflected the emotions swirling inside her. Emma didn't think about what she was painting. She simply let the colors flow, each stroke of the brush releasing a part of herself she had long kept locked away. Time seemed to blur. The world outside the gallery faded into the background, and it was just her, the canvas, and the freedom of creation. She wasn't aware of how much time had passed until a gentle voice broke through her concentration. "Emma." She blinked, her hand stilling as she turned to see Oliver standing beside her, his expression a mixture of curiosity and admiration. "Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt," he said with a sheepish smile. "I was just, wow." Emma glanced at the canvas, surprised by what she saw. The painting was abstract, a riot of colors and shapes that seemed to pulse with energy. There was no clear image, no identifiable subject, but it felt powerful. Alive. "I don't know what it is," she murmured, a hint of uncertainty creeping into her voice. "I just started painting." "And that's exactly what you were supposed to do," Oliver said softly. He stepped closer, his gaze tracing over the painting with genuine appreciation. "It's beautiful, Emma. Raw and real. Emma felt a flush of pride and disbelief. You think so? I know so, he said, his eyes meeting hers. You have a gift, Emma. You always have. She looked away, a mix of emotions churning inside her. It felt good to hear someone acknowledge her talent, to see something in her that she had long forgotten. But it also stirred up memories she wasn't sure she was ready to face. What made you stop? Oliver asked gently, his voice pulling her back to the present. Emma hesitated, then let out a soft sigh. Life, I guess. I got caught up in everything. School, then work, and Trevor. Trevor. Oliver raised an eyebrow. My fiancé, she explained, her voice flattening slightly at the mention of his name. He's very focused on success. On achieving things, making a name for himself. And I guess, somewhere along the way, I convinced myself that my art didn't fit into that vision. Didn't fit, or didn't matter. Oliver's question was quiet, but it hit Emma like a punch to the gut. She stared at him, speechless, as the truth of his words sank in. Had she really believed that her art didn't matter? That it was something frivolous, unworthy of serious attention? Had she let herself be defined by someone else's expectations? I don't know, she whispered, her voice trembling. I don't know anymore. Oliver reached out, his hand brushing lightly against hers. Emma, your art matters. You matter. Don't let anyone, fiancé or not, make you forget that. His touch was warm, comforting, and Emma felt something inside her begin to loosen, to unfurl like a flower reaching for the sun. Thank you, she murmured, a small, genuine smile forming on her lips. I needed to hear that. Anytime, Oliver said softly. He stepped back, giving her space. Take your time. Let yourself get lost in it. And remember, it's okay to just paint for you. No expectations, no pressure. Emma nodded, turning her attention back to the canvas. She took a deep breath and picked up the brush once more, this time with a renewed sense of purpose. She didn't need to know where the painting was going. She just needed to let it take her there. By the end of the workshop, Emma felt a sense of calm she hadn't experienced in years. The painting she had created was far from perfect, but it was hers, an expression of everything she had been holding inside. She looked at it, a strange mixture of pride and disbelief washing over her. It felt good. No, it felt amazing. Not bad for your first workshop, Oliver said with a grin as he helped her clean up. You've got some serious talent, Emma. I hope this won't be your last visit. Emma laughed softly, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. I think I'll be back. I'd forgotten how much I love this. You should come to the open studio hours sometime, he suggested. No schedule, no structured activities. Just a space to create and be yourself. I'd like that, she said, genuinely meaning it. Thank you, Oliver. For everything. He shrugged, but there was a hint of warmth in his eyes. I didn't do anything. It was all you. They exchanged smiles, a silent understanding passing between them. And as Emma left the gallery, she felt lighter than she had in a long time. It was as if a part of herself she had lost was finally beginning to return. The city seemed brighter, more vibrant as she walked back to her apartment. She couldn't wait to tell Trevor about the workshop, about how good it felt to paint again. Maybe he would understand. Maybe he would even support her desire to start painting again. But as soon as she stepped through the door, her enthusiasm faltered. Trevor was sitting on the couch, his phone pressed to his ear, his expression tense. He glanced up as she entered, his eyes narrowing slightly. "I'll call you back," he said curtly into the phone before hanging up. He turned to Emma, his gaze sharp. "Where have you been?" Emma swallowed, the excitement she had felt earlier dissipating under the weight of his scrutiny. "I went to an art workshop." "An art workshop?" Trevor repeated, a frown forming on his face. "Why? What's the point of that?" Emma took a deep breath, willing herself to stay calm. "I wanted to try painting again. I used to love it, remember?" Trevor's frown deepened. "Emma, you don't have time for that kind of nonsense. You have a career to focus on. We're both busy people with important goals. Why waste time on something that doesn't matter?" Emma felt a pang of hurt at his words, but she pushed it down, forcing herself to smile. "It's not a waste of time, Trevor. It's something I'm passionate about. It makes me happy." Trevor sighed, running a hand through his hair in exasperation. "I don't get it, Emma. Why now? Why start this hobby again? You're doing so well at work. We have plans, a future. This painting thing doesn't fit into that." Emma stared at him, a growing sense of frustration bubbling up inside her. Why did it always have to be about fitting into a mold, about checking boxes on some invisible checklist? "Maybe it doesn't have to fit," she said quietly. "Maybe I can have both, a career and art." "Maybe, Emma," Trevor interrupted, his tone patronizing. "Be realistic. This is just a phase. You'll get over it." His dismissal stung, but more than that, it infuriated her. How could he brush off something that meant so much to her? How could he not see how important this was? "I'm not going to get over it," she said firmly, surprising even herself with the strength in her voice. "This isn't just a phase. This is a part of who I am." Trevor stared at her, his mouth opening and closing as if he couldn't quite process what she was saying. "Emma, you're being irrational." "Am I?" she shot back, her hands trembling. "Or am I finally standing up for myself?" The silence that followed was thick and suffocating. Trevor's expression shifted from disbelief to anger, and for a moment, Emma thought he was going to say something hurtful. But then he took a deep breath, his face smoothing into a calm mask. "We'll talk about this later," he said coldly. "When you've had time to think." And with that, he turned and walked away, leaving Emma standing in the middle of the living room, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear, anger, and something else, something like liberation. For the first time, she had stood her ground. She had defended her passion, her love for art. And while it had cost her Trevor's approval, it had given her something far more valuable. It had given her back a piece of herself. As she stood there, staring at the closed door, Emma realized that she didn't need Trevor's permission to pursue her dreams. She didn't need anyone's permission. She was Emma Lawson. And she was finally ready to reclaim her forgotten dream. Part 4. Turning Point. The tension between Emma and Trevor lingered in the days that followed. They tiptoed around each other, their conversation strained and awkward. Emma tried to bring up her newfound passion for painting a few more times, hoping Trevor would eventually come around, but each attempt ended in the same way: dismissive comments, half-hearted nods, and thinly veiled disapproval. It was like they were speaking different languages, unable to connect or understand each other. And every time Trevor brushed off her enthusiasm for art, Emma felt a little piece of her heart chip away. But instead of backing down, Emma found herself clinging even more fiercely to her art. She began attending the gallery's open studio sessions after work, staying late into the evening as she experimented with colors and textures, letting her emotions spill onto the canvas in a way she hadn't dared to in years. The more she painted, the more alive she felt. It was as if she were rediscovering a part of herself she had buried long ago, a part that was wild and free and unapologetically passionate. And through it all, Oliver was there, encouraging her, challenging her, and listening to her in a way that Trevor never had. One evening, after another long and frustrating day at work, Emma arrived at the studio feeling drained and discouraged. Her boss had rejected one of her campaign ideas without even giving it a second glance, and the stress of balancing work with her personal life was starting to wear her down. She had barely set up her easel when Oliver appeared beside her, a concerned frown on his face. "Rough day?" he asked softly. Emma let out a weary sigh. "You have no idea. Want to talk about it?" She glanced at him, seeing the genuine concern in his eyes, and felt something inside her soften. It had been so long since someone had truly listened to her, since someone had cared enough to ask how she was really feeling. "It's just, everything feels so overwhelming lately," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "Work, Trevor, it's like I'm being pulled in 100 different directions, and no matter what I do, I'm never good enough." Oliver's gaze softened, and he reached out, resting a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Emma, you're more than good enough. You're incredible. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise." His words, spoken with such sincerity, brought tears to her eyes. She quickly blinked them away, offering him a shaky smile. "Thank you," she whispered. "I really needed to hear that." "Anytime," Oliver said quietly. He hesitated, then added, "Have you thought about taking a step back? Maybe giving yourself some space to figure things out?" Emma let out a humorless laugh. "I wish I could. But Trevor would never understand. He's so focused on the future, on building our life together. I don't even know if I'm part of that future anymore." The confession slipped out before she could stop it, and Emma immediately regretted saying it. But Oliver didn't judge her or offer empty platitudes. He simply nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Maybe that's something you need to figure out for yourself," he said gently. "What you want, what makes you happy. You deserve to live a life that fulfills you, Emma. Not one that someone else decided for you." Emma stared at him, his words resonating deep within her. "What you want. What makes you happy." When was the last time she had asked herself those questions? When was the last time she had truly considered what she wanted, outside of other people's expectations? "I don't know if I can," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You can," Oliver said firmly, his gaze unwavering. "I believe in you." The sincerity in his voice made Emma's heart ache. How was it that a man she had known for only a few weeks could see her so clearly, while Trevor, the man she had been with for years, seemed completely blind to her needs and desires? She looked away, her thoughts swirling in a confusing mess of emotions. She knew she couldn't keep going like this, couldn't keep pretending everything was fine when she felt like she was falling apart inside. Something had to change. But what? And then, almost as if the universe were answering her silent question, her phone buzzed in her pocket. Emma pulled it out, glancing at the screen, and felt her stomach drop. It was a text from Trevor. "We need to talk. Come home as soon as you can." The words were ominous, carrying an unspoken weight that sent a chill down Emma's spine. She turned to Oliver, her hands shaking slightly. I have to go," she stammered. "Trevor wants to talk." Oliver's expression tightened, but he nodded. "Do you want me to come with you?" "No, it's fine," Emma said quickly. "I need to do this alone." "Okay," he said softly. "But if you need me, you know where to find me." Emma managed a grateful smile, then turned and hurried out of the studio, her heart racing with a mix of fear and uncertainty. She had a sinking feeling that whatever conversation awaited her at home would change everything. When Emma arrived back at the apartment, she found Trevor pacing the living room, his face set in a tight, controlled mask. He glanced up as she entered, his gaze sharp and unyielding. "Emma, we need to talk," he said without preamble, his voice tense. She took a deep breath, steeling herself. "Okay. What's going on?" Trevor let out a long sigh, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "This thing you're doing, with the painting and the workshops, it's becoming a problem." Emma blinked, caught off guard by his bluntness. "A problem? How is it a problem?" "Because you're not focused," Trevor snapped, his tone hard. "You're distracted, you're not giving work your full attention, and it's affecting your performance." "I spoke to your boss today." "You did what?" Emma interrupted, her voice rising in disbelief. "Why would you talk to my boss?" "Because I'm worried about you." Trevor shot back, his eyes flashing with anger. "You're throwing away everything we've built together for some silly hobby." "It's not a hobby," Emma shouted, the words bursting out of her before she could stop them. "It's my passion, Trevor. It's something that makes me feel alive." Trevor stared at her, his jaw clenched. "You have responsibilities, Emma. You have a career, a life that we're building together. You can't just drop everything to chase some childish dream." Emma felt something inside her snap. All the frustration, the resentment, the anger she had been holding back for so long came rushing to the surface in a tidal wave of emotion. "Maybe I don't want that life," she cried, her voice trembling with fury. "Maybe I'm tired of being the perfect partner, the perfect employee, the perfect everything. Maybe I want to do something that actually makes me happy for once." Trevor recoiled as if she had slapped him, his eyes wide with shock. "What are you saying, Emma?" "I'm saying," she took a deep, shuddering breath, her heart pounding in her chest. "I'm saying that I don't know if I want this anymore. This life, this relationship, us." The silence that followed was deafening. Trevor's face drained of color, and for a moment, he looked completely lost. "You don't mean that," he whispered, his voice hollow. But Emma knew, in that moment, that she did. She had been trying so hard to fit into the mold Trevor had created for her, to be the person he wanted her to be. But it wasn't who she was. It wasn't who she wanted to be. "I'm sorry, Trevor," she said softly, tears filling her eyes. "But I can't keep pretending everything is fine. I need to figure out who I am, what I want, and I can't do that with you." Trevor shook his head, his expression crumpling with pain. "Emma, please, We can work this out. I love you. The words stabbed at her heart, but she forced herself to stay strong. I love you too. But I need to love myself first. Trevor stared at her, his eyes shining with unshed tears. And then, slowly, he nodded, his shoulders slumping in defeat. Okay, he whispered, his voice breaking. Okay, Emma. If that's what you need. Emma felt her heart shatter at the brokenness in his voice. But she knew, deep down, that this was the right decision. The hardest decision she had ever made, but the right one. With one last, lingering look, she turned and walked out of the apartment, her footsteps echoing in the silence. As she stepped out into the cool night air, a wave of relief washed over her, mingled with sadness and fear. She had no idea what came next, no idea where her life would lead her now. But for the first time in a long time, she felt free. And that was a start. Part 5. Embracing the unknown. The night air was cool against Emma's skin as she walked aimlessly through the city streets. Her mind was a whirlwind of emotions, regret, relief, fear, and an odd sense of exhilaration all swirling together in a confusing mix. She had done it. She had walked away from the life she had built with Trevor, from the security and predictability of their relationship. And now, for the first time in years, she was completely on her own. Emma stopped in front of a small park, the soft glow of streetlights casting long shadows over the empty benches and rustling trees. She sat down on one of the benches, wrapping her arms around herself as she tried to process everything that had happened. Was this the right decision? Had she made a huge mistake? She thought of Trevor's face, of the hurt and confusion in his eyes as she told him she couldn't continue their relationship. She had never meant to hurt him. He wasn't a bad person. He was just different. His dreams, his ambitions, his expectations for their future, they no longer aligned with hers. And that was okay. They both deserved to be with someone who truly understood and supported their passions, their goals. But that knowledge didn't make the pain of letting go any less real. What now? The question echoed in her mind, louder than ever. The thought of going back to her empty apartment filled her with a sense of dread. She needed someone to talk to, someone who would understand. Before she could second-guess herself, she pulled out her phone and dialed Oliver's number. It rang a few times before his familiar voice came through the line. Emma, he answered, a note of surprise in his voice. Is everything okay? Emma hesitated, her throat tightening. I left Trevor. There was a pause, and when Oliver spoke again, his voice was gentle and full of concern. Where are you? Are you all right? I'm fine. I'm at a park near the gallery, she said softly. I didn't know where else to go. Stay right there. I'm coming to you, Oliver said firmly. Emma let out a shaky breath, relief flooding through her. Okay. Thank you. She hung up and leaned back against the bench, staring up at the night sky. It was strange how one decision could change everything. How one moment of clarity could set her on a completely new path. But as she waited for Oliver, she realized something important. She wasn't scared of the unknown anymore. She wasn't afraid of what lay ahead. Because whatever happened, it would be her choice. Her life. And that made all the difference. Oliver arrived at the park a short while later, his brow creased with worry as he spotted Emma sitting alone on the bench. He quickly made his way over to her, his concern palpable. "Emma," he murmured, sitting beside her. "Are you sure you're okay?" She nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. I'm not sure how I feel right now. But I think I'm going to be okay." Oliver studied her for a long moment, then reached out and gently took her hand in his. His touch was warm and steady, and Emma felt a wave of comfort wash over her. "Do you want to talk about it?" he asked softly. Emma glanced down at their joined hands, a lump forming in her throat. She had never expected to find such a genuine connection with someone like Oliver, someone who barely knew her but seemed to understand her on a level even Trevor hadn't. "I ended it because I realized that I wasn't living my life for myself," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "I was living for everyone else, for my parents, for Trevor, for what society said I should be. But not for me." Oliver nodded slowly, his thumb brushing gently over her knuckles. "And what do you want, Emma?" The question was simple, but it struck her with the force of a tidal wave. What did she want? She had been so focused on what she didn't want, on what she was running away from, that she hadn't really thought about what she was running toward. I want to paint," she said softly, the words surprising her even as she spoke them. "I want to create, to explore that side of myself again. I want to find out who I am without all the expectations and pressures." Oliver's smile was gentle, encouraging. "Then do it. You have so much potential, Emma. Don't let it go to waste." Tears filled her eyes, and she looked away, trying to compose herself. It's scary, you know. Letting go of everything I thought I needed." "It is scary," Oliver agreed, his voice steady. "But sometimes, letting go is the only way to make room for something new. For something better." Emma took a deep, shuddering breath, his words sinking in. He was right. She had been holding on to a life that no longer fit, clinging to it out of fear of the unknown. But now, as she sat here with Oliver, she realized that she didn't have to face it alone. "Thank you, Oliver," she whispered, turning to look at him. "You've helped me more than you know." He shook his head, his eyes soft. "You did this, Emma. You found the courage to walk away, to choose yourself. I'm just glad I could be here for you." They sat in silence for a while, the cool night air wrapping around them like a blanket. It was a peaceful silence, filled with unspoken understanding and a sense of companionship that warmed Emma's heart. After a while, Oliver turned to her, a thoughtful look on his face. "Do you want to go somewhere?" Emma raised an eyebrow. "Somewhere?" "Yeah." He smiled, a hint of mischief in his eyes. "There's a spot I go to when I need to clear my head. It's quiet, peaceful, and the view is amazing. Want to check it out?" Emma hesitated, then nodded, curiosity and a hint of excitement bubbling up inside her. "Okay. Let's go." They got into Oliver's car, and he drove them out of the city, the bright lights fading behind them as they made their way toward the outskirts. The drive was quiet, comfortable, and Emma found herself relaxing in the passenger seat, the tension slowly melting away. After about half an hour, Oliver turned onto a narrow, winding road that led up a hill. They parked at the top, and he led her out to a small clearing that overlooked the city below. Emma gasped softly as she took in the view. The city stretched out before them, a sea of twinkling lights against the dark canvas of the night. It was breathtaking, almost magical. Wow, she murmured, her voice filled with awe. This is incredible. Yeah, Oliver agreed softly, his gaze on her rather than the view. It is. Emma glanced at him, feeling her heart skip a beat. There was something in his eyes, something tender and earnest, that made her chest tighten. Thank you for bringing me here, she said quietly. I needed this. Anytime, he replied, his voice gentle. You deserve a place where you can just be. No expectations, no pressures. Just you. Emma looked back at the city, her mind swirling with thoughts and emotions. She felt a sense of clarity settling over her, like a fog lifting to reveal a path she hadn't seen before. I think I want to take some time off work, she said slowly, the decision crystallizing in her mind. I need to focus on my art, to see if it's really what I want to pursue. Oliver's smile was wide and genuine. That sounds like a great idea, Emma. I'm proud of you. His words warmed her, and she found herself smiling back, a sense of hope blossoming in her chest. I'm scared, she admitted softly. But I'm also excited. That's a good sign, Oliver said, his voice filled with quiet assurance. It means you're on the right track. They stood there together, side by side, staring out at the city below. And as the stars twinkled above them and the cool breeze brushed against their skin, Emma felt a sense of peace settle over her. She didn't know what the future held. She didn't know where her path would lead. But for the first time in a long time, she felt ready to find out. The next day, Emma walked into her boss's office and handed in her request for an extended leave of absence. Her boss, a stern woman with a no-nonsense attitude, looked up in surprise. Are you sure about this, Emma? She asked, her tone skeptical. Emma nodded, her resolve unwavering. I am. I need some time to figure things out, to focus on my art. Her boss studied her for a long moment, then sighed and nodded. I can't say I'm thrilled about losing one of my best employees, but I understand. Take the time you need, and let us know when you're ready to come back. Thank you, Emma said sincerely. I appreciate it. As she left the office, a sense of relief washed over her. She had taken the first step, had made the decision to prioritize herself and her dreams. And now it was time to see where that decision would take her. She spent the next few weeks diving headfirst into her art, pouring her heart and soul into every piece she created. She experimented with different styles and techniques, pushing herself to explore new avenues of expression. It wasn't always easy. There were days when she felt frustrated, when self-doubt crept in and whispered that she wasn't good enough. But every time that happened, she remembered Oliver's words, the encouragement and belief he had shown her. And slowly, day by day, she began to find her own voice as an artist. Oliver continued to be a constant source of support and inspiration. They spent countless hours together, talking about art, life, and everything in between. Their friendship deepened, and Emma found herself looking forward to every moment they shared. One evening, as they were sitting in the studio, a comfortable silence between them, Oliver turned to her, a thoughtful look in his eyes. Emma, he began hesitantly, have you ever thought about doing an exhibit? Emma's eyes widened in surprise. An exhibit? Me? Oliver nodded, his gaze steady. Yeah. I think your work is incredible, and I know other people would think so too. Why not show the world what you can do? The idea was both thrilling and terrifying. An exhibit meant putting herself out there, opening herself up to criticism and judgment. But it also meant sharing her art, sharing a piece of herself with the world. I don't know if I'm ready for that, she said softly. You're more than ready, Oliver said firmly. I believe in you, Emma. And I think it's time you started believing in yourself too. Emma looked at him, his words resonating deep within her. Maybe he was right. Maybe it was time to take that leap, to show the world, and herself, what she was capable of. Okay, she whispered, her voice filled with determination. Let's do it. Oliver's smile was wide and proud. That's the spirit. We'll make it happen, Emma. I promise. And as they sat there, excitement and anticipation buzzing in the air, Emma felt a sense of hope and possibility fill her chest. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for certain: she was ready to embrace it. Part 6. Putting it all on canvas. The decision to put on an art exhibit was a turning point for Emma. It was as if a dam had broken inside her, unleashing a torrent of creativity she hadn't felt in years. She spent every waking moment at the studio, the colors and shapes flowing from her brush with an intensity that took even her by surprise. Oliver was by her side through it all, offering encouragement and guidance without ever imposing his own vision. He pushed her to explore new themes and ideas, to dig deeper into her emotions and express them on the canvas. And Emma, for the first time in a long time, felt like she was doing something meaningful. Something that was truly hers. The weeks flew by, a blur of paint and canvas, until the day of the exhibit arrived. Emma stood in the middle of the gallery, staring at the rows of paintings that lined the walls. Each one was a piece of her, an expression of the joy, pain, hope, and uncertainty that had defined her journey over the past few months. The exhibit was titled Emergence, a name Oliver had suggested after seeing the transformation in her work. It was a fitting title. This was her emergence from the shadows of doubt and fear, her way of showing the world, and herself, that she was more than the role she had once allowed to define her. As the doors of the gallery opened and the first guests began to trickle in, Emma felt a wave of nervousness wash over her. What if they didn't like her work? What if they dismissed it as amateurish or shallow? But then she caught sight of Oliver standing across the room, his eyes warm and steady as they met hers. He gave her a small nod, a silent reminder of his faith in her. You can do this. Taking a deep breath, Emma straightened her shoulders and stepped forward to greet the guests. The evening passed in a blur. Emma moved through the crowd, answering questions, discussing her pieces, and listening to the reactions of those who had come to see her work. Some praised her use of color, others were drawn to the emotional depth of her paintings. A few even expressed interest in purchasing her pieces, a prospect that both excited and terrified her. But what surprised her most were the connections she made with the people who viewed her art. A woman in her 50s told Emma that one of her paintings, a swirling abstract piece in shades of blue and green, reminded her of the grief she had felt after losing her husband. A young man in his 20s said that another piece, a stark, monochromatic image of a lone figure standing at a crossroads, mirrored his own struggle with choosing a career path. It was humbling and inspiring to hear how her work resonated with others, how it spoke to them in ways she hadn't even intended. Toward the end of the evening, as the crowd began to thin out, Emma found herself standing in front of her favorite painting, a vibrant, chaotic explosion of colors she had created one night when she couldn't sleep. It was raw and unrefined, but it held a special place in her heart. "That one's my favorite too," a familiar voice said softly beside her. Emma turned to see Oliver standing there, his hands in his pockets, a small smile on his lips. "You're not just saying that?" she asked with a teasing smile, but there was a hint of vulnerability in her voice. "I'm not," he assured her. "There's something powerful about it. It feels like you poured everything you are into it." Emma looked back at the painting, her smile fading slightly. "I did. That night. I was thinking about everything that's happened. About all the choices I've made, the things I've lost, and the things I've found." Oliver's gaze softened. "It shows. It's beautiful, Emma. Just like you." Emma's heart skipped a beat at the tenderness in his voice. She turned to look at him, her breath catching in her throat as she saw the emotion in his eyes. "Oliver, she began, but before she could finish, the door to the gallery opened, and a familiar figure stepped inside. Emma froze, her eyes widening as she took in the sight of Trevor standing in the entrance, his gaze scanning the room until it landed on her. "Trevor," she whispered, her voice barely more than a breath. He looked different. Thinner, a little gaunt around the edges. But his eyes, those same piercing blue eyes, were filled with an intensity Emma hadn't seen in a long time. "Emma," he said quietly, stepping closer. Can we talk?" Emma glanced at Oliver, who nodded slightly and stepped back, giving them space. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice tinged with confusion and a hint of apprehension. Trevor swallowed, his gaze never leaving hers. I needed to see you. I've been doing a lot of thinking since you left, and I realized something important." Emma crossed her arms, her heart pounding. "What did you realize?" "I realized that I took you for granted," he said softly, his voice filled with regret. "I pushed you to be someone you're not, to fit into a life that didn't make you happy. And I'm sorry, Emma. I'm so sorry." Emma stared at him, stunned. She hadn't expected this. Hadn't expected an apology, or even an acknowledgement of what had gone wrong between them. "I don't know what to say," she murmured, her mind reeling. Trevor took another step closer, his eyes pleading. "Emma, I want to fix things. I want to support you, to be there for you. Please, come back." Emma's breath caught in her throat. This was everything she had once wanted to hear, Trevor admitting his mistakes, asking her to come back. But now, standing here in front of him, she realized something. She didn't want to go back. Not to the way things were. "I appreciate your apology, Trevor," she said quietly, choosing her words carefully. "But I don't think I can come back. Too much has changed." His face fell, pain flashing across his features. "Emma, please. We can make it work." "I'll change, It's not about you changing," she interrupted gently. "It's about me. I'm finally starting to figure out who I am, what I want, and I can't give that up." Trevor stared at her, his expression crumpling with despair. "So that's it. You're choosing this over us." Emma took a deep breath, the weight of her decision settling over her. "I'm choosing myself, Trevor. I'm choosing to live my life for me." The silence that followed was thick and heavy, filled with unspoken words and shattered hopes. And then, slowly, Trevor nodded, a sad, resigned look in his eyes. "Okay," he whispered. "If that's what you need, then I won't stand in your way." Emma felt a pang of sadness as she watched him turn and walk away. But she knew, deep down, that this was the right decision. For both of them. She stood there for a long moment, staring at the empty doorway. Then she felt a gentle hand on her shoulder and turned to see Oliver standing beside her, his gaze filled with understanding. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Emma nodded slowly, a small, bittersweet smile forming on her lips. "Yeah. I think I'm going to be okay." They stood in silence for a moment, the air around them humming with unspoken emotions. And then, tentatively, Oliver reached out and took her hand. "You're amazing, you know that," he murmured, his voice filled with quiet admiration. "Strong, brave, talented. I've never met anyone like you." Emma's heart fluttered at his words, and she felt a warmth spreading through her chest. She looked up at him, her gaze searching his. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "For everything. For believing in me." "I always will," Oliver said softly, his thumb brushing gently over her knuckles. "And I'll be here, no matter what you decide." Emma stared at him, her heart pounding. She knew what he was offering, his support, his friendship, and maybe, if she was ready, something more. She took a deep breath, letting the fear and uncertainty fall away. This was her moment. Her choice. Slowly, she stepped closer, her eyes never leaving his. "I think I'm ready to take that leap," she murmured, her voice barely more than a whisper. Oliver's eyes widened, hope and disbelief warring in his gaze. "Are you sure?" Emma nodded, a small, genuine smile spreading across her lips. "Yes. I'm sure." And then, before she could second-guess herself, she leaned up and pressed her lips to his in a soft, tentative kiss. It was a kiss filled with promises, of new beginnings, of shared dreams, of a future that was entirely theirs to create. When they finally pulled back, both of them were breathless, their foreheads resting against each other's. "I've waited a long time to do that," Oliver murmured, his voice tinged with a hint of laughter. Emma smiled, her heart soaring. "So have I." They stood there, holding each other close, as the world around them seemed to fall away. It didn't matter what challenges lay ahead, what obstacles they would have to face. Because they had each other. And that was enough. Part 7. Stepping into the light. The morning after the exhibit, Emma woke up feeling lighter than she had in years. Sunlight streamed through the windows of her apartment, bathing the room in a warm, golden glow. She stretched lazily, savoring the sense of peace and contentment that filled her chest. The exhibit had been a success, more than she could have ever hoped for. People had connected with her work, seen her soul on display, and responded with appreciation and admiration. She had sold several paintings, and there were offers for more. But beyond the sales and praise, what mattered most to Emma was that she had finally found the courage to put herself out there, to embrace her identity as an artist. Her phone buzzed on the bedside table, and she reached for it, smiling when she saw Oliver's name on the screen. "Good morning, artist extraordinaire. Still riding the high of your big night?" Emma's smile widened as she typed out a reply. "Morning, Muse. Still can't believe it all happened. Want to grab brunch and help me process everything? His response was immediate. I'd love to. Meet you at the Bluebird Cafe in an hour. Emma's heart fluttered with anticipation as she set her phone down and got out of bed. She took her time getting ready, choosing a soft, flowing dress that made her feel light and free. As she looked at herself in the mirror, she realized she looked happy. Truly, deeply happy. It was a startling realization. For so long, she had been chasing happiness in all the wrong places, trying to fit herself into a life that didn't feel right. But now, she was starting to see the path that had been waiting for her all along. And that path had led her to this moment. To Oliver. With a contented sigh, Emma grabbed her bag and headed out the door, excitement buzzing in her veins. The Bluebird Cafe was a quaint little spot nestled on a quiet street corner, its cozy interior filled with the scent of fresh coffee and baked goods. Emma spotted Oliver sitting at a table near the window, a soft smile on his face as he watched her approach. Hey, she said, sliding into the seat across from him. Did you get any sleep last night? Not much, he admitted with a chuckle. Too busy replaying every moment of the exhibit in my head. You were incredible, Emma. Emma felt a blush creep up her cheeks. Thank you. I still can't believe how well it went. I never thought. I never expected people to react the way they did. You put yourself out there, showed the world who you are, Oliver said, his gaze filled with admiration. And the world responded. You deserve every bit of recognition, Emma. You're talented beyond words. Emma glanced down at her coffee cup, a shy smile tugging at her lips. I couldn't have done it without you, you know. You've been my biggest supporter through all of this. Oliver reached across the table and took her hand, his touch sending a familiar warmth coursing through her. I just helped you see what was already there. The rest, that was all you. Emma's heart swelled at his words, and she found herself squeezing his hand gently. I'm so glad I met you, Oliver. Me too, he murmured, his eyes never leaving hers. I've never met anyone like you, Emma. You're extraordinary. For a moment, they simply sat there, the world outside the cafe fading away as they lost themselves in each other's gaze. There was so much Emma wanted to say, so much she wanted to express, but words felt inadequate. Instead, she let herself simply be in the moment, savoring the quiet connection that seemed to hum between them. Have you thought about what comes next? Oliver asked softly, breaking the silence. Emma tilted her head, considering his question. What do you mean? The exhibit was just the beginning, he said, his eyes bright with excitement. There's so much more you can do, so many possibilities. Have you thought about where you want to take your art from here? Emma let out a thoughtful hum, her mind racing with ideas. I have. I want to keep exploring, keep experimenting. Maybe work on a series that delves deeper into some of the themes I touched on in the exhibit. Oliver nodded, his smile widening. That sounds amazing. And you know I'll be here, cheering you on every step of the way. Emma felt a surge of emotion at his words. She had never felt so supported, so understood. Oliver wasn't just cheering her on. He was walking beside her, encouraging her to chase her dreams and believe in herself. Thank you, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. For believing in me. For everything. Oliver's gaze softened, and he squeezed her hand gently. I'll always believe in you, Emma. Always. They spent the rest of the morning talking about art, life, and everything in between. It was easy, natural, as if they had known each other for years rather than months. Emma found herself opening up to Oliver in ways she hadn't with anyone else, sharing her fears and hopes, her insecurities and dreams. And Oliver, in turn, shared more about himself, about his own struggles as an artist, his journey to finding his voice, and the moments of doubt that had nearly made him give up. I almost didn't pursue art, he admitted quietly, his gaze distant. There was a time when I thought I'd never be good enough, that I'd never make it. I thought about giving it all up and going into something more practical. Emma's heart ached at the thought. What changed? Oliver looked at her, his eyes shining with a quiet determination. I realized that it didn't matter what other people thought. That the only opinion that truly mattered was my own. If art made me happy, if it was my passion, then that was enough. I didn't need anyone else's validation. Emma nodded slowly, his words resonating deep within her. You're right. I've spent so much of my life trying to be what everyone else wanted me to be. But now I want to be who I want to be. And who is that? Oliver asked softly, his gaze intent. Emma took a deep breath, letting the answer come to her naturally. Someone who creates. Someone who loves deeply, who lives fully. Someone who's not afraid to take risks and chase her dreams. Oliver's smile was slow and breathtakingly beautiful. Then you're already there, Emma. You're already that person. Tears filled her eyes, and she quickly blinked them away, a laugh bubbling up from her chest. You always know just what to say. Only with you, he murmured, his voice filled with a tenderness that made Emma's heart flutter. They finished their meal and left the cafe, the crisp morning air invigorating and fresh. As they walked through the quiet streets, Emma felt a sense of possibility blooming within her. The world felt open, full of potential and promise. Where to next? Oliver asked with a playful grin. Emma considered the question, then turned to him, her eyes sparkling with mischief. I have an idea. But you have to trust me. Oliver raised an eyebrow, curiosity lighting up his features. Oh. And what might that be? Emma leaned in, lowering her voice conspiratorially. There's a little park not far from here, with a beautiful fountain in the middle. It's quiet, peaceful, the perfect place to set up an easel and paint. Oliver's eyes widened in surprise. You want to paint? Right now? Why not? Emma asked, a wide smile spreading across her face. No rules, no expectations. Just us, the canvas, and whatever comes to mind. For a moment, Oliver seemed caught off guard. Then his smile returned, slow and genuine. You're amazing, you know that. Just following your example, Emma teased, her heart light. They made their way to the park, carrying a few supplies Emma had brought along just in case. The park was just as she remembered it, small and serene, the fountain's gentle trickle adding a soothing backdrop to the sound of birds chirping in the trees. They set up their easels side by side, and Emma took a deep breath, letting the peace of the place settle over her. Ready? She asked, glancing at Oliver. He nodded, his gaze soft and steady. Ready. They began to paint, each lost in their own world of colors and shapes. There were no expectations, no pressure to create something perfect. It was just the joy of creating, of expressing themselves freely and without restraint. And as the hours passed, Emma felt a deep sense of contentment settle over her. This was where she was meant to be, surrounded by beauty, sharing her passion with someone who understood her completely. When they finally stepped back to admire each other's work, Emma couldn't help but laugh. Oliver's painting was a vibrant, abstract explosion of colors that mirrored his personality perfectly, bold, lively, and full of energy. Emma's, on the other hand, was softer, more delicate. It depicted a field of wildflowers swaying gently in the breeze, their petals glowing in the soft light of dusk. "It's beautiful," Oliver murmured, his gaze lingering on her painting. "Just like you." Emma felt her heart swell with emotion. She looked up at him, her eyes shining with happiness. "And yours is incredible. Just like you." They exchanged smiles, a shared understanding passing between them. In that moment, Emma knew that whatever happened next, they would face it together. The journey ahead might be uncertain, but with Oliver by her side, she felt ready to embrace it all. "Let's do this again," Emma said softly, a hopeful smile on her lips. "Absolutely," Oliver replied, his voice warm and sincere. "Anytime you want." As they packed up their supplies and made their way out of the park, Emma felt a sense of clarity wash over her. She had reclaimed her passion, rediscovered a piece of herself she thought she had lost forever. And with Oliver's support, she knew she could continue to grow, to create, and to chase her dreams, no matter where they might lead her. Over the next few months, Emma's life took on a new rhythm. She continued to paint, exploring different styles and themes, each piece a reflection of her evolving self. She also began participating in more art workshops and community events, embracing the creative energy that surrounded her. Oliver remained a steadfast presence in her life, always encouraging her to push boundaries and try new things. They painted together, explored galleries, and shared their hopes and fears late into the night. With him, Emma felt seen, heard, and understood in a way she hadn't thought possible. But their friendship deepened in ways that went beyond art. They shared laughter and light moments, but they also shared their vulnerabilities, their pasts, and the dreams they held for the future. Emma found herself drawn to Oliver in ways she hadn't expected, her feelings for him blossoming into something more. One evening, as they were working on a collaborative piece at the studio, Emma felt a rush of boldness. She turned to Oliver, her heart racing as she gathered her courage. "Can I ask you something?" she said, her voice steady despite the flutter of nerves in her stomach. "Of course," he replied, pausing his brush mid-stroke and looking at her intently. "What do you see for yourself in the future?" she asked, her heart pounding. "In terms of your art, your life." Oliver considered her question for a moment, his brow furrowing in thought. "I want to keep creating, to keep pushing myself as an artist. I want to have my own exhibits, to travel and find inspiration in new places. But more than that, I want to make a difference. I want my art to connect with people, to tell stories that resonate." Emma nodded, impressed by his vision. "That's beautiful, Oliver. You have such a gift for making people feel." "And what about you?" he asked, a curious look in his eyes. "What do you see for yourself?" Emma took a deep breath, the answer bubbling to the surface. "I want to keep painting, to explore my own style and voice. I want to inspire others the way you've inspired me. And I want to find joy in creating, without the fear of judgment or failure. "Emma," Oliver said softly, stepping closer, "you're already doing that. You've come so far. I'm proud of you." His words warmed her heart, and in that moment, the air between them shifted. There was a charged silence, filled with unspoken emotions and possibilities. "Can I tell you something?" Emma asked, her heart racing. "Anything," he replied, his gaze steady. Part 7. Crossing the line. "I've developed feelings for you, Oliver," Emma said, her voice barely more than a whisper. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with the weight of her vulnerability. Oliver's eyes widened slightly, and for a moment, Emma feared she had misread the connection they shared. But then, a slow smile spread across his face, and warmth flooded her chest. "I was hoping you'd say that," he replied, his voice low and sincere. Emma felt a rush of relief mixed with excitement. "Really?" "Really," he said, taking a step closer. "I didn't want to overstep, especially considering everything you've been through. But I can't deny how I feel about you, Emma. You inspire me every day." Her heart soared at his words, and suddenly the uncertainty and fear that had held her back melted away. Emma reached out, her fingers brushing against his, and felt a jolt of electricity pass between them. "I've been afraid to admit it," she confessed. "Afraid that it might change things between us." "Why would it change anything?" Oliver asked gently. "If anything, I think it makes us stronger. We're on this journey together, and I want to be there for you, no matter what." Emma's breath hitched as she looked into his eyes, the sincerity and warmth in his gaze making her heart race. She felt a mix of emotions, hope, joy, and an overwhelming sense of connection. "Then let's explore this," she said, a smile breaking across her face. "Let's see where it leads." Oliver grinned, and the tension between them shifted into something softer, something filled with promise. They moved closer, their breaths mingling in the small space that separated them. And then, without hesitation, Emma leaned in and kissed him. It was a gentle kiss, tentative yet charged with all the emotions they had held back for so long. Oliver responded instantly, his hands finding her waist as he deepened the kiss, pulling her closer as the world around them faded away. The kiss ignited something within Emma, a spark of warmth and happiness that filled her chest. She wrapped her arms around Oliver's neck, losing herself in the moment, in the connection they shared. It was everything she had been longing for, an affirmation of her feelings and a recognition of their bond. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were breathless, their foreheads resting against each other as they took a moment to catch their breath. "Wow," Oliver murmured, a soft smile playing on his lips. "Wow," Emma echoed, feeling giddy and alive. "I didn't expect that." "Neither did I, but I'm glad it happened," he said, his gaze searching hers. "I've wanted to kiss you for a while now, but I didn't want to overstep." "I'm glad you did," Emma said, her heart racing. "I've been wanting this too." They shared a smile, the weight of unspoken feelings now lifted between them. Emma felt lighter, freer, as if the final piece of her journey towards self-discovery had fallen into place. It felt good to embrace this new chapter with Oliver by her side. "I guess we're really doing this now," Oliver said, his voice teasing but filled with sincerity. "Yes, we are," Emma replied, her smile bright. "And I'm excited to see where it leads." As the weeks passed, Emma and Oliver's relationship deepened in ways she had never imagined. They painted together, explored the city, and shared quiet moments filled with laughter and warmth. Oliver became her partner not only in art but in life, supporting her through every new challenge and encouraging her to embrace her creativity. The gallery exhibit had opened up new opportunities for Emma, and she began to receive invitations to participate in local art shows and workshops. The more she painted, the more she felt like she was stepping into her true self, unearthing a passion that had been buried for far too long. One sunny Saturday afternoon, they decided to visit a local farmer's market, the vibrant stalls filled with fresh produce, flowers, and handmade crafts. The atmosphere was alive with laughter and chatter, and the air was rich with the scent of blooming flowers and ripe fruits. Emma and Oliver strolled hand in hand, stopping occasionally to admire the colorful displays. She felt happy and content, a sense of belonging wrapping around her like a warm hug. "Look at those sunflowers," Oliver exclaimed, pointing toward a stall overflowing with the bright yellow blooms. "They're beautiful," Emma said, smiling as they approached the vendor. "I love sunflowers, they always remind me of summer." "Perfect for you, then," Oliver replied with a playful grin. "You've definitely brought some sunshine into my life." Emma laughed, her heart swelling with affection. "You're too sweet." They bought a bouquet of sunflowers and continued to wander through the market, their conversation flowing easily. Emma felt alive, her spirit buoyed by the energy of the day and the connection she shared with Oliver. As they walked, Oliver suddenly stopped, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "Emma, I've been meaning to ask, have you thought about applying for more exhibits? You have so much talent, and I think it's time the world sees it." Emma hesitated, her heart racing at the thought. "I don't know, Oliver. What if they don't like my work? What if I'm not ready?" "Don't sell yourself short," he urged, his tone earnest. "You're ready. You've come so far already, and your art deserves to be shared. The only thing holding you back is fear, and you don't need that anymore." His words resonated deep within her, and Emma felt a surge of determination. She wanted to share her art, to show the world what she could create. And with Oliver's unwavering support, she felt empowered to take that leap. "Okay," she said, her voice filled with newfound confidence. "I'll do it. I'll apply for more exhibits." Oliver's face lit up with pride, and he pulled her into a tight embrace. "That's what I like to hear." They spent the rest of the afternoon discussing potential exhibits and ideas for her next pieces. Emma felt a rush of excitement as she envisioned the possibilities ahead, new canvases, new experiences, and a chance to embrace her identity as an artist fully. The following weeks were a whirlwind of creativity and passion. Emma poured herself into her art, creating new pieces that explored her emotions and experiences in a way she hadn't dared to before. She applied for multiple exhibits, each submission accompanied by a sense of hope and anticipation. Oliver remained by her side, offering encouragement and constructive feedback on her work. They often spent late nights in the studio, laughing and painting together, their connection growing deeper with each shared moment. One evening, as they sat side by side, Emma finished a large canvas that had been a labor of love. It was an abstract piece filled with swirling colors and shapes that represented her journey, her struggles, her triumphs, and the vibrant emotions that had defined her path. "Emma, this is incredible," Oliver said, his eyes wide with admiration as he took in the painting. "You've really captured something beautiful here." "Thank you," she said, her heart swelling with pride. "I wanted to convey everything I've felt, everything I've been through. Oliver smiled, his gaze softening. And you did. It's powerful. Emma felt a rush of warmth at his praise, but a hint of doubt crept in. Do you really think it's good enough for an exhibit? Absolutely, he said without hesitation. You have a unique voice as an artist, and the world needs to see it. Trust yourself. His confidence in her made Emma's heart race. She took a deep breath, pushing aside the lingering fears and insecurities that had plagued her for so long. I will, she said, determination filling her voice. I'll submit this piece for my next exhibit. Oliver's smile widened, and he leaned in, pressing a soft kiss to her lips. I can't wait to see where this takes you. The day of Emma's next exhibit arrived, and she felt a mixture of excitement and nerves as she stood in the gallery, surrounded by her work. The walls were adorned with her paintings, each one a reflection of her journey, her growth, and her newfound confidence. The opening was packed with guests, each one stopping to admire her art and share their thoughts. Emma moved through the crowd, her heart swelling with pride as she listened to the praise and appreciation directed at her work. But as she turned to greet a group of admirers, her eyes caught sight of a familiar figure standing at the back of the room. Trevor was there, his expression unreadable as he watched her. A mix of emotions flooded through Emma: surprise, apprehension, and something akin to sadness. She hadn't expected him to show up, not after everything that had happened between them. She hesitated, uncertainty knotting in her stomach. But then she felt Oliver's hand on her back, his presence grounding her. She took a deep breath and walked over to Trevor, determined to face whatever was coming. Hi, Trevor, she said, her voice steady. Emma, he replied, his tone cautious. I came to see your work. Emma nodded, her heart pounding as she gestured toward the paintings. What do you think? He looked around, his expression softening as he took in the pieces. They're incredible. You've really found your voice. Thank you, Emma said, surprised by his sincerity. I've been working hard on them. Trevor nodded, a hint of something unspoken lingering in the air. I'm sorry for how I handled things before. I realize now that I should have supported you, not tried to control your passion. Emma felt a flicker of hope at his words, but she also knew that they couldn't go back to the way things were. It's okay, Trevor. I appreciate the apology, but I've changed. I need to focus on my art and my own path now. I understand, he said, his voice low and sincere. And I want you to be happy, even if it's not with me. The honesty in his words touched Emma, and she felt a swell of compassion for the man she had once loved. Thank you for coming, Trevor. It means a lot. He gave her a small smile, one that held a mixture of sadness and acceptance. I'll always be rooting for you, Emma. No matter where life takes you. With that, Trevor turned and walked away, leaving Emma standing there with a bittersweet feeling in her chest. She felt a mix of closure and loss, but also a sense of liberation. She was no longer bound by expectations or the past. Hey, you okay? Oliver's voice broke through her thoughts, and she turned to see him standing beside her, concern etched on his face. Yeah, she said, her voice steady. I think I am. Emma felt a sense of calm wash over her. She had faced her past, confronted her fears, and come out stronger on the other side. And now, standing in this gallery surrounded by her work and the people who appreciated it, she felt ready to embrace whatever came next. Let's celebrate, Oliver said, a bright smile on his lips. You've earned it. Emma grinned, her heart soaring as they raised their glasses to toast the journey that had brought them together. As they clinked their glasses, Emma felt a rush of gratitude and joy. This was just the beginning. Part 8. Embracing New Horizons. The following weeks flew by in a whirlwind of creativity and inspiration. Emma found herself diving deeper into her art, her studio becoming a sanctuary where she could explore her emotions without fear or restraint. Each stroke of the brush felt like a release, a way to express everything she had bottled up for so long. The success of her recent exhibit had opened doors she never expected. She received invitations to collaborate with local artists, to showcase her work in upcoming shows, and even to teach a few beginner art classes at the community center. Emma was thrilled by the opportunities, but she also felt a twinge of anxiety. Could she really keep up with it all? Was she ready for this level of commitment? But every time doubt crept in, Oliver was there to remind her of her strength. They spent countless evenings in the studio together, painting side by side, sharing their dreams, and encouraging each other to reach for the stars. Their bond deepened, and the connection they shared blossomed into something beautiful and real. One sunny Saturday afternoon, Emma and Oliver decided to visit a local art fair. The vibrant atmosphere was alive with music, laughter, and the energy of creativity. Artists displayed their work, live music filled the air, and the scent of delicious food wafted from nearby stalls. As they walked through the fair, Emma felt a sense of excitement buzzing inside her. She loved seeing other artists' creations, absorbing the different styles and techniques that surrounded her. "Look at that booth!" Oliver exclaimed, pointing to a display filled with intricate pottery. "We should check it out." Emma laughed, watching as he eagerly pulled her toward the booth. They wandered from stall to stall, marveling at the talent and creativity on display. Emma felt a rush of inspiration as she took in the variety of styles, everything from abstract paintings to whimsical sculptures. It reminded her of how much beauty existed in the world, waiting to be discovered and shared. After an hour of browsing, they found a quieter corner of the fair, where a small stage had been set up for live performances. A local musician was strumming a guitar and singing soulful songs, and a small crowd had gathered to listen. "This is nice," Emma said, leaning against the railing, her gaze fixed on the performer. "It feels good to be around so much creativity." Oliver nodded, his eyes sparkling. "It really does. It's inspiring." As the music played, Emma felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. She had come so far in such a short time. The fear and doubt that had once held her back were fading away, replaced by a sense of purpose and fulfillment. She was finally living for herself. As the musician finished his set, Emma turned to Oliver, her heart racing. "You know, I've been thinking." "About what?" he asked, glancing at her with curiosity. "About maybe doing a collaboration," she said, her voice steady but filled with excitement. "What if we created something together? A joint exhibit or a project that combines our styles?" Oliver's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. "That's a brilliant idea. I'd love to collaborate with you. We could explore the themes that resonate with us both, combine our perspectives and see what emerges." Emma felt a thrill of excitement at the thought. "Exactly. I think it would be amazing to create something that blends our styles and tells a unique story." They spent the rest of the afternoon brainstorming ideas, their conversation flowing effortlessly as they bounced thoughts off each other. The possibilities felt endless, and Emma couldn't shake the feeling that this collaboration could be something truly special. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden light over the fair, Oliver turned to her with a smile. "I can't wait to get started on this, Emma. It's going to be incredible." "Me too," she replied, her heart full. "I'm so grateful to have you by my side through this journey." Oliver's expression softened, and he took her hand in his, intertwining their fingers. "Always." The weeks that followed were filled with creativity and collaboration. Emma and Oliver spent every spare moment working on their joint project, exploring new techniques and styles as they painted side by side. The process was invigorating, each brushstroke and color choice weaving together their unique perspectives into something beautiful. Their connection deepened even further as they shared laughter, challenges, and triumphs in the studio. Emma felt like she had found a true partner, not just in art, but in life. Oliver supported her dreams, encouraged her to push boundaries, and celebrated her successes. One evening, as they were wrapping up a long day in the studio, Emma paused to admire their progress. The canvas before them was a tapestry of colors and shapes, each representing a piece of their journey together. "I think we're creating something truly special," she said, her voice filled with awe. "We definitely are," Oliver replied, stepping back to examine their work. "It's a perfect blend of our styles and stories." Emma turned to him, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you for being such an amazing collaborator. I couldn't have done this without you." Oliver smiled, a hint of mischief in his eyes. "What can I say? I'm a pretty great partner." Emma laughed, shaking her head. "You really are." As they cleaned up the studio, a comfortable silence settled between them. Emma felt a sense of contentment wash over her, knowing they were building something beautiful together. "Hey, I was thinking," Oliver said suddenly, breaking the silence. "What if we had a small preview of our work before the official exhibit? Just for a few close friends and family." Emma's eyes widened in surprise. "That's a great idea. A little preview party to celebrate our collaboration." "Exactly," Oliver said, his excitement infectious. "It'll give us a chance to share our work in a more intimate setting and get some feedback before the big show." Emma felt a rush of enthusiasm at the thought. "Let's do it. We can set it up for next weekend." They spent the rest of the evening planning the details, from the guest list to snacks and drinks. The anticipation filled the air, and Emma felt a sense of joy bubbling inside her. As the week flew by, Emma found herself lost in the excitement of preparing for the preview party. She spent long hours in the studio, putting the finishing touches on their collaborative pieces while also creating a few new ones to showcase. Oliver helped with every aspect, from setting up the gallery space to arranging the snacks and drinks. Finally, the day of the preview arrived, and Emma felt a mix of nerves and excitement as she stood in front of the gallery. She had invited a handful of close friends and family, eager to share her work with those who had supported her journey. As the first guests began to arrive, Emma felt her heart race. She greeted them with warm smiles, guiding them through the gallery as they admired her art. Oliver stood by her side, his presence grounding her as they shared stories and insights about their collaborative work. "Wow, Emma, this is incredible," her friend Sarah exclaimed, her eyes wide with awe as she studied one of the larger pieces. "I can't believe how far you've come. You're a real artist now." Emma felt a rush of warmth at her friend's words. "Thank you, Sarah. It means a lot to hear that." As the night went on, the gallery filled with laughter and conversation. Emma felt a deep sense of fulfillment as she watched her friends and family engage with her work, sharing their thoughts and interpretations. It was everything she had hoped for, a celebration of her journey, her art, and the connections she had forged along the way. At one point, as Emma stood back and observed the crowd, Oliver sidled up beside her, a proud smile on his face. "You did this, Emma. You created this space, and it's beautiful." Emma beamed, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you, Oliver. You've been my rock through all of this." He glanced at her, a soft look in his eyes. "And I always will be." As the evening began to wind down, Emma felt a mixture of joy and bittersweetness wash over her. She had shared her art with the world, opened herself up to feedback, and felt a sense of acceptance she had longed for. But she also knew that this was just the beginning. The journey ahead would be filled with new challenges, new opportunities, and new discoveries. As the last of the guests filtered out, Emma turned to Oliver, her heart racing. "Thank you for everything tonight. It was perfect." "It really was," he said, his gaze intent. "I'm so proud of you." In that moment, Emma felt something shift between them. The air was charged with unspoken emotions, a magnetic pull that drew them closer together. She searched Oliver's eyes, feeling a rush of warmth and connection. Without thinking, she stepped forward and kissed him, her heart pounding with the intensity of the moment. Oliver responded instantly, his hands finding her waist as he deepened the kiss, pulling her closer. It was a kiss filled with everything they had shared, the laughter, the struggles, the triumphs, and it felt like coming home. When they finally pulled apart, both of them breathless, Emma's heart raced with exhilaration. "I've wanted to do that for a while now," she admitted, her cheeks flushed. Oliver grinned, his eyes sparkling. "Me too." They stood there for a moment, caught in the warmth of each other's gaze, and in that instant, Emma knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Because they had each other. And that was more than enough. Part 9. Chasing Dreams Together. The days that followed the preview party were filled with a sense of renewed purpose and excitement for Emma. She dove headfirst into her art, energized by the positive feedback she had received and the overwhelming support of her friends and family. With Oliver by her side, she felt empowered to chase her dreams in a way she had never thought possible. As their collaborative pieces took shape, Emma and Oliver spent more time together, both in the studio and outside of it. They explored new neighborhoods in the city, visited art galleries, and even took weekend trips to nearby towns to find inspiration. Each moment spent together deepened their connection, and Emma felt herself falling for him even more. One sunny afternoon, they decided to take a trip to a small coastal town known for its picturesque beaches and vibrant art scene. The drive was filled with laughter and music, the windows down as the fresh sea air filled the car. Emma couldn't remember the last time she had felt this carefree. "Are you ready for some fun in the sun?" Oliver asked with a teasing grin as they approached the beach. "Absolutely," Emma replied, her excitement bubbling over. "I can't wait to see the sunset over the ocean. It's supposed to be stunning." They parked and made their way down to the beach, the sound of waves crashing against the shore creating a soothing melody. Emma kicked off her shoes, feeling the warm sand beneath her feet as she took a deep breath, inhaling the salty air. "This is perfect," she said, her eyes sparkling as she looked around. "I love it here." Oliver smiled, his gaze drifting toward the horizon. "It really is beautiful. Let's find a spot to set up." They found a secluded area near some rocks, where they could lay out their beach towels and enjoy the view. As they settled in, Emma pulled out her sketchbook, feeling inspired by the natural beauty surrounding her. "Want to draw?" she asked, glancing at Oliver. "Or would you rather relax for a bit?" "Let's do both," he replied, pulling out his own sketchbook. "We can take turns, and then maybe share what we come up with." Emma grinned, her heart soaring at the thought of creating together in such a beautiful setting. She opened her sketchbook and began to draw, the lines and shapes flowing effortlessly from her pencil as she captured the essence of the landscape before her. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden glow over everything, and as the minutes passed, Emma felt herself becoming completely absorbed in her work. It was blissful, just her, the sound of the waves, and the colors of the sunset painting the sky. After a while, Oliver broke the silence. "Can I see what you've done?" Emma looked up, a shy smile crossing her lips. "Sure. But it's not finished yet." "Doesn't matter. I'd love to see it." She turned her sketchbook toward him, and Oliver studied her drawing with a thoughtful expression. "This is amazing, Emma. You've captured the light beautifully." "Thanks," she said, her cheeks flushing with warmth. "I was just trying to convey the feeling of the moment." "You succeeded," he said, his voice sincere. "There's a sense of peace in your work that really resonates." Emma felt a rush of pride at his words. "What about yours?" "Let me see." Oliver turned his sketchbook toward her, revealing a detailed drawing of the rocks and waves, his style bold and dynamic. "I was trying to capture the movement of the water," he explained. "It's so alive, isn't it?" "It really is." Emma exclaimed, impressed by his talent. "You've given it such energy." They continued to share their work, exchanging sketches and ideas as the sun dipped lower in the sky, painting the horizon with shades of orange, pink, and purple. Emma felt an overwhelming sense of joy and connection as they collaborated, their creativity intertwining in a beautiful dance. As the sun began to set, they both paused, captivated by the breathtaking view before them. The sky was ablaze with color, the waves reflecting the brilliant hues as they crashed against the shore. "This is incredible," Emma breathed, her heart swelling with emotion. "I can't believe we're here." "It feels like a dream," Oliver said, his voice low as he looked at her. "But it's real, Emma. This is our life now." She turned to him, a smile breaking across her face. "And I wouldn't trade it for anything." As the last rays of sunlight faded, Oliver took her hand, intertwining their fingers. "I'm so grateful for you, Emma. You've brought so much light into my life." Emma's heart raced at his words, and she felt a rush of warmth flood her chest. "You've done the same for me, Oliver. I never expected to find this kind of connection, this kind of love." His gaze held hers, deep and unwavering. "I care about you, Emma. More than I've ever cared about anyone. You inspire me to be better, to chase my dreams, and to embrace life fully." Her breath caught in her throat at the intensity of his words. "I feel the same way. You make me believe in myself." With the sun now completely gone, the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, illuminating the world around them. Emma felt a surge of hope and possibility as she leaned in closer, her heart pounding. "Can I kiss you again?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Oliver's smile widened, and he nodded. "Yes, please." Emma closed the distance between them, her lips finding his in a soft, lingering kiss. It was filled with all the unspoken emotions they had shared, the promise of a future together, and the joy of simply being in each other's presence. As they pulled back, Oliver's eyes sparkled with warmth. "That was perfect." "It really was," Emma agreed, feeling a giddy rush of happiness. "I'm so glad we're doing this together." "Me too," Oliver said softly. "And I can't wait to see where this journey takes us." They packed up their belongings and headed back to the car, the night air filled with laughter and the sound of waves crashing in the distance. Emma felt alive, her heart brimming with hope and excitement for the future. As they drove back to the city, the stars shining brightly above them, Emma knew that she was on the right path. She had embraced her passion, discovered her voice as an artist, and found love in the most unexpected place. And with Oliver by her side, she felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The following months were a whirlwind of creativity and growth. Emma and Oliver continued to collaborate, their art reflecting their journey together. They painted, explored, and celebrated their successes, each moment bringing them closer together. Emma's exhibit opened to rave reviews, and she began to establish herself in the local art community. She received invitations to participate in more shows and collaborations, and with each opportunity, her confidence blossomed. But it wasn't just her art that flourished, her relationship with Oliver deepened as well. They navigated challenges together, supported each other's dreams, and found joy in the everyday moments they shared. One evening, as they were cooking dinner together in Emma's apartment, she paused to watch Oliver as he chopped vegetables, his focus unwavering. The warmth of the kitchen enveloped them, and the scent of spices filled the air. "Hey, Oliver," Emma said, leaning against the counter. "Yeah," he replied, glancing up at her. "What do you see for us in the future?" The question hung in the air, and Emma felt her heart race as she waited for his response. They had been together for several months now, and the bond they shared felt deeper than anything she had experienced before. But she wanted to know if he felt the same. Oliver paused for a moment, his expression thoughtful. "I see us continuing to grow together. Pursuing our passions, supporting each other, and building a life that reflects who we are." Emma smiled, her heart swelling at his words. "Me too. I want to create a life filled with love, adventure, and art. I want to explore the world with you." "I'd love that," he said softly, a warm smile spreading across his face. "You make everything feel possible, Emma. You inspire me to dream bigger." She felt a rush of emotion at his words, knowing that she had found someone who truly understood her. "I never thought I could feel this way about someone again." "Neither did I," Oliver admitted, stepping closer to her. "But I'm grateful every day that we found each other." They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of their feelings palpable in the air. Emma felt a flutter of excitement and a hint of nervousness as she gathered her courage. "Oliver," she began, her voice steady. "I love you." His expression shifted, surprise giving way to joy. "Emma, I love you too." In that moment, everything felt right. The love they shared was genuine and profound, built on a foundation of trust, creativity, and support. Emma knew she had found something special with Oliver, something that would last. As they stood there, the world outside faded away. They leaned in, their lips meeting in a soft, tender kiss that conveyed all the love and promise they had for each other. And as they pulled back, Emma knew that this was just the beginning. Together, they would embrace whatever adventures awaited them, hand in hand, heart to heart. Part 10, a new chapter. The summer sun shone brightly as Emma and Oliver continued to nurture their love and their art. With each passing day, they grew closer, their connection deepening in ways that felt both exhilarating and natural. They spent long weekends exploring new places, attending art festivals, and enjoying quiet evenings filled with laughter and conversation. As her own art gained recognition, Emma's confidence flourished. She began to receive inquiries for commissioned pieces and even started teaching beginner painting classes at the community center, sharing her passion with others. Each new opportunity felt like a step forward, a sign that she was on the right path. One sunny afternoon, they found themselves at a local park, enjoying a picnic they had prepared together. Emma spread out a blanket on the grass, the air filled with the scent of freshly made sandwiches and fruit. As they sat side by side, she couldn't help but smile at the happiness that enveloped them. "Who knew you were such a master chef?" Oliver teased, taking a bite of his sandwich and grinning at her. Emma laughed, her heart light. "Well, I'm no gourmet, but I can whip up a decent picnic." "Decent?" Oliver raised an eyebrow, mock serious. "This is amazing. You have to give me your secret recipes." "Sure, if you share your secret for capturing the perfect light in your paintings," Emma countered playfully. "Deal," he replied, a smile lighting up his face. They spent the afternoon lounging on the blanket, enjoying each other's company and basking in the sun. As they talked about everything from art to their favorite childhood memories, Emma felt a sense of contentment wash over her. This was what she had been missing, the simple joy of being with someone who understood and appreciated her. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the park, Emma turned to Oliver, her heart swelling with emotion. "I can't believe how much has changed in such a short time. I feel like I'm finally living my life for me." "You are," Oliver said, his gaze steady and encouraging. "You've embraced your passion, your art, and you've found the courage to pursue what makes you happy. That's a huge accomplishment." Emma smiled, her heart fluttering at his words. "I couldn't have done it without you. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." "Because you deserve to believe in yourself," he replied, reaching out to tuck a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "And you're inspiring others to do the same." Feeling emboldened, Emma took a deep breath and decided to share something that had been on her mind. "I've been thinking about the future. About us." Oliver's expression shifted slightly, curiosity piqued. "What about it?" "I want to continue pursuing my art, and I want you to be a part of that journey," Emma said, her heart racing. "I want to explore more collaborative projects together. I think we can create something incredible." His eyes lit up with excitement. "I'd love that. We could even look into some joint exhibits, showcase our work together. It would be amazing." Emma's heart soared at the thought. The idea of building a future together, both in their art and their relationship, felt thrilling and full of possibility. "Exactly. I want to create something that reflects both of our journeys." Oliver nodded enthusiastically. "Let's do it. I'm all in." As they finished their picnic and packed up their things, Emma felt a rush of excitement. This was just the beginning, and she couldn't wait to see where their journey would take them. As summer turned into fall, Emma and Oliver dove headfirst into their collaborative project. They spent countless hours in the studio, brainstorming ideas, sketching designs, and creating new pieces that combined their unique styles. The energy between them was electric, and the creative process felt like a dance, each one pushing and inspiring the other to reach new heights. With each piece they created, Emma felt her confidence growing. She experimented with new techniques, trying things she had never thought possible, and with Oliver's encouragement, she began to find her voice more clearly. Their work reflected not only their individual styles but also the deep connection they shared. As they approached the opening of their joint exhibit, Emma felt a mix of excitement and nerves. They had worked tirelessly to prepare, and now it was time to showcase their creations to the world. The day of the exhibit arrived, and Emma stood in the gallery, her heart racing as she surveyed the room. The walls were adorned with their collaborative pieces, each one telling a story of their journey together. The atmosphere was alive with anticipation as guests began to arrive, mingling and admiring the artwork. Oliver stood beside her, a proud smile on his face as they greeted their guests. "You did this, Emma. You should be so proud." "I am," she replied, her voice trembling with emotion. "I never imagined I would be here, sharing my work like this." As the evening progressed, Emma felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. Guests approached her to compliment her work, to share how her art resonated with them. She felt a sense of fulfillment, knowing that she was finally sharing her passion with the world. At one point during the evening, as they stood together, a woman approached them, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "I love your piece. It captures so much emotion. What was your inspiration?" Emma smiled, feeling a rush of excitement. "Thank you. The piece reflects my journey of self-discovery and the emotions I've experienced along the way." Oliver chimed in, and it showcases the collaboration between us, how we inspire each other in our art. As the night wore on, Emma felt a sense of connection to everyone around her. She realized that this exhibit was more than just a display of her work, it was a celebration of her journey, her passion, and the relationships that had shaped her along the way. Later, as the crowd began to thin and the evening winded down, Emma and Oliver took a moment to step outside, the cool night air refreshing after the heat of the gallery. They leaned against the railing, overlooking the city skyline. "We did it," Emma said, her voice filled with awe. "We actually did it." Oliver smiled, a look of pride in his eyes. "I knew you could do it. You've come so far, Emma. This is just the beginning." She turned to him, her heart swelling with emotion. "I couldn't have done it without you. Thank you for believing in me and for being my partner in all of this." "I'll always believe in you," he said softly. "And I'm grateful to be on this journey with you." As they stood there together, Emma felt a surge of warmth and happiness. This was her life now, filled with art, love, and endless possibilities. She had embraced her passions and found her voice, and she was ready to take on whatever came next. With Oliver by her side, she felt ready to face the world. As fall turned into winter, Emma and Oliver's relationship continued to blossom. They navigated the ups and downs of life together, celebrating successes and supporting each other through challenges. Emma found herself falling more in love with Oliver every day, his unwavering belief in her and their shared passion for art binding them closer together. One chilly evening, they decided to take a trip to a nearby art retreat, a weekend getaway that promised relaxation and inspiration. Emma felt excited at the thought of spending uninterrupted time with Oliver, surrounded by nature and creativity. The retreat was nestled in a cozy cabin near the mountains, with stunning views of the surrounding landscape. As they settled into their room, Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of tranquility wash over her. This was the perfect escape. They spent the first day exploring the nearby trails, soaking in the beauty of the changing leaves and the crisp autumn air. The scenery was breathtaking, and Emma found herself filled with inspiration. As they walked hand in hand, she felt a sense of peace and contentment that resonated deep within her. Later that evening, they gathered around a crackling fire in the common area with other artists, sharing stories and experiences. Emma felt a sense of camaraderie with the group, each person eager to connect and inspire one another. As the night wore on, Emma turned to Oliver, her heart racing. "Let's paint tonight. I want to capture this moment." "Great idea," Oliver replied, his eyes lighting up with enthusiasm. "Let's head back to the cabin and gather our supplies." They quickly returned to their cabin, the warmth of the fire crackling beside them as they set up their easels in the living room. The cozy atmosphere filled with the scent of wood smoke made it the perfect setting to create. As they began to paint, the soft glow of the fire illuminated their faces, casting flickering shadows across the room. Emma felt a surge of creativity as she poured herself into her work, capturing the essence of the retreat, the warmth, the connection, and the beauty of the moment. Oliver painted beside her, his concentration evident as he lost himself in his own creation. The energy in the room was electric, filled with passion and inspiration. Hours passed as they painted, the only sounds the rustle of brushes on canvas and the crackling of the fire. Emma felt a deep sense of joy as she worked, her heart full as she glanced over at Oliver, who was completely immersed in his art. When they finally stepped back to admire their work, Emma felt a rush of pride. The canvas before her captured the spirit of the retreat, the warmth of the fire, the beauty of the surrounding nature, and the love that had blossomed between them. "This is incredible," Oliver said, his gaze filled with admiration as he looked at her painting. "You've captured the essence of the moment perfectly." "Thank you," Emma said, her heart swelling with happiness. "I couldn't have done it without your inspiration." He smiled, stepping closer to her, their bodies inches apart. "You're amazing, Emma. I love seeing how you express yourself through your art." As the fire crackled beside them, Emma felt a surge of emotion. She took a deep breath, gathering her courage once more. "Oliver, there's something I've been meaning to tell you." His eyes softened, curiosity evident. "What is it?" "I love you." "I've loved you for a long time now," she confessed, her heart racing. The warmth of the fire seemed to envelop them as Oliver stepped closer, his gaze intense. "I love you too, Emma. You mean the world to me." In that moment, the world outside faded away, and all that mattered was the connection they shared. Emma felt a rush of happiness, her heart bursting with love as they leaned in and kissed, the warmth of their embrace filling the room. As they pulled back, Emma felt a sense of peace and fulfillment wash over her. She knew that this was where she was meant to be, by Oliver's side, chasing their dreams together. The rest of the retreat passed in a blur of creativity and connection. Emma and Oliver painted side by side, explored the surrounding nature, and shared their dreams for the future. They talked about their plans for upcoming exhibits, their hopes for their art careers, and their desire to travel and create together. As the weekend came to a close, Emma felt a mixture of sadness and gratitude. This retreat had been a turning point for them, a chance to deepen their bond and explore their creativity without the distractions of everyday life. On the drive back home, Emma couldn't help but smile as she glanced over at Oliver, who was focused on the road, a content expression on his face. She felt a rush of happiness at the thought of their future together, the adventures they would share, and the love that had blossomed between them. "I can't wait to start our next project," she said, breaking the comfortable silence. "Neither can I," Oliver replied, glancing at her with a smile. "We have so much potential, and I know we're going to create something amazing." Emma's heart swelled at his words. She felt ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing they would face it together. As they drove through the changing landscapes, Emma realized that this was just the beginning of their journey. They had found their voices as artists, and now they were ready to share them with the world. And with Oliver by her side, she felt like anything was possible. Part 11. The Power of Dreams. As the seasons changed, so did Emma and Oliver's lives. The warmth of summer had given way to the crisp air of fall, and with it came a wave of new opportunities and challenges. Emma's collaborative project with Oliver blossomed into a joint exhibit, and they spent countless hours refining their pieces, pouring their hearts into every stroke of the brush. Their exhibit, titled Harmony in Color, was set to open at a local gallery in just a few weeks, and Emma felt a mix of excitement and nerves. This was not just a chance to showcase their work, it was a celebration of their journey together, a testament to their growth as artists and as individuals. One evening, as they worked late in the studio, Emma paused to take a step back from her canvas, her heart racing. "Oliver, I can't believe we're actually doing this. We're going to have our own exhibit." He smiled, his eyes bright with enthusiasm. "I know. It's incredible to think about how far we've come in such a short time." Emma's gaze drifted to the collaborative piece they were working on together, a large canvas that captured the essence of their artistic journey. The vibrant colors and swirling shapes mirrored their emotions, intertwining their styles into something beautiful and unique. "I've been thinking," she said, biting her lip nervously. "What if we also shared a little bit about our process during the exhibit? Maybe give a talk about how we created the pieces?" Oliver's eyes widened with excitement. "That's a fantastic idea. It would add a personal touch, and I think people would love to hear about our journey together." Emma felt a rush of exhilaration at the thought. This was more than just an exhibit, it was an opportunity to connect with others, to inspire them to embrace their own passions. "Let's do it. We can plan a small presentation during the opening." They spent the next few days preparing not just their art, but also their presentation. They created an outline, discussing the themes behind their work, their creative process, and the emotional experiences that shaped each piece. Emma felt a sense of purpose as they collaborated on the presentation, their ideas flowing effortlessly between them. As the opening night of Harmony in Color approached, the excitement in the air was palpable. Emma and Oliver spent the day setting up the gallery, arranging the pieces to create a cohesive flow that would guide visitors through their artistic journey. The walls were filled with vibrant colors, each painting telling a story of creativity and connection. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the city, guests started to arrive. Emma felt a mix of nerves and anticipation as she greeted friends, family, and fellow artists who had come to support their work. "Emma, this is stunning," her friend Sarah exclaimed, her eyes shining as she took in the gallery. "I can't believe how far you've come." "Thank you," Emma said, her heart swelling with pride. "I'm so glad you're here." As the crowd grew, Oliver joined Emma's side, a proud smile on his face. They exchanged knowing glances, the excitement between them palpable. They were ready to share their journey with the world. When the time for their presentation arrived, Emma felt her heart racing. She and Oliver stood at the front of the gallery, the audience gathered before them, their expressions filled with curiosity and anticipation. "Thank you all for being here tonight," Emma began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "We're so excited to share our work with you and to give you a glimpse into our creative process." Oliver stepped forward, his energy infectious. "Our exhibit, Harmony in Color, is a reflection of our journey as artists, as well as our journey together. Each piece you see here represents not just our individual styles but also the connection we've built through our art." As they spoke, Emma felt a sense of empowerment wash over her. This was her moment to share her story, to inspire others to embrace their passions. With every word, she felt the fear that had once held her back fade away, replaced by a sense of purpose. They shared anecdotes about their creative process, the challenges they faced, and the joy of collaboration. Emma could see the audience leaning in, captivated by their story, and it filled her with a sense of fulfillment. After their presentation, guests approached them with questions and compliments, eager to learn more about their work. Emma felt a rush of happiness as they engaged with people who appreciated her art and were inspired by her journey. "Emma, your art speaks to me in such a powerful way," a woman said, her eyes shimmering with emotion. "Thank you for sharing your story." "Thank you for saying that," Emma replied, her heart full. "I've been on a journey of self-discovery, and it means so much to hear that my work resonates with you." As the evening wore on, Emma and Oliver felt a deep sense of connection with their guests. They listened to stories, shared laughter, and celebrated the beauty of creativity together. As the night came to a close, Emma found herself standing beside Oliver, both of them reflecting on the success of their exhibit. "We did it," Emma said, her voice filled with awe. "We did," Oliver replied, a proud smile on his face. "And it's only the beginning." Emma felt a rush of gratitude as she looked up at him, her heart racing. "Thank you for believing in me, for pushing me to chase my dreams." "I'll always believe in you, Emma," he said softly, his gaze steady. "You inspire me every day, and I'm so grateful to share this journey with you." As they stood there, surrounded by the remnants of their celebration, Emma realized that they had created something beautiful, not just in their art, but in their lives together. They had forged a partnership built on love, creativity, and unwavering support. "I can't wait to see what comes next for us," she said, her heart full of hope. "Neither can I," Oliver replied, his eyes shining with excitement. "We're just getting started." As winter settled in, Emma and Oliver continued to thrive in their artistic endeavors. The success of their exhibit opened doors to new opportunities, and they found themselves collaborating with other artists, participating in community events, and even planning a trip to an art residency. With each new venture, Emma felt her confidence grow. She had embraced her identity as an artist, and with Oliver's unwavering support, she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. One crisp winter evening, as they sat in their cozy apartment, Emma turned to Oliver, a playful smile on her lips. "You know, I've been thinking." "Oh no," he replied, feigning concern. "What now?" Emma laughed, feeling a rush of excitement. What if we started a blog? A platform to share our journey, our art, and connect with others in the creative community. Oliver's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. That's a brilliant idea. We could share our process, our experiences, and even feature other artists. It would be a great way to inspire and connect with others. Emma felt a rush of joy at his response. Exactly. We could call it something like Artistic Harmony or Creative Journeys. Perfect, Oliver agreed, his excitement contagious. Let's brainstorm some content ideas and get started. They spent the evening jotting down ideas, discussing the vision for their blog, and planning how they would share their artistic journey with the world. Emma felt a thrill of anticipation as they dove into the project, the creative energy between them buzzing like electricity. As the weeks passed, they launched their blog, sharing their stories, their art, and the lessons they had learned along the way. The response was overwhelming, with people connecting with their journey and expressing their appreciation for the authenticity and vulnerability they shared. Emma felt a deep sense of fulfillment as they built this new platform together. It was a way to inspire others and create a community of artists who could support one another in their creative endeavors. One evening, as they were wrapping up a blog post, Oliver turned to Emma with a serious expression. You know, I've been thinking about how far we've come, together, as artists and as partners. Emma nodded, her heart racing. I know. It feels like we're on the brink of something incredible. I want to keep moving forward with you, he said, his voice steady. I want to build a life that reflects both of our dreams, together. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she looked into his eyes, filled with sincerity and warmth. Me too, Oliver. I want that more than anything. He took a deep breath, his gaze unwavering. Then let's keep chasing our dreams together. Let's create a life filled with love, art, and adventure. As Emma smiled back at him, she felt a wave of hope and excitement wash over her. This was her life now, a beautiful tapestry woven together with love, creativity, and endless possibilities. And with Oliver by her side, she knew they could face whatever came next, hand in hand, heart to heart. Part 12, New Horizons. As winter faded into spring, Emma and Oliver's lives continued to blossom. Their blog, Artistic Harmony, gained traction in the creative community, connecting them with artists from all walks of life. Emma felt invigorated by the exchanges and the stories shared by others, and she cherished the sense of belonging that came with it. Their collaborative art pieces had become a staple of local galleries, and the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Each exhibit was a celebration of their love and creativity, reflecting not just their artistic journeys but also the bond they had forged together. One sunny Saturday, they decided to visit a local art festival that showcased emerging artists. As they strolled through the vibrant booths, Emma felt her heart race with excitement. She loved the energy of the festival, the sound of laughter, the scent of food stalls, and the colorful artwork surrounding them. Look at that! Oliver exclaimed, pointing to a booth filled with stunning ceramic pieces. We have to check it out. Emma grinned and followed him, her heart full. As they admired the intricately designed pottery, she couldn't help but feel grateful for this moment. Every day felt like a new adventure with Oliver, and she loved exploring new ideas and inspirations together. Do you ever think about how we can expand our reach even further? Oliver asked as they moved to another booth displaying vibrant paintings. What do you mean? Emma replied, her curiosity piqued. I was thinking we could host some workshops together, he suggested, excitement dancing in his eyes. We could share our techniques, inspire others, and build a community of artists. Emma's heart swelled at the idea. That sounds incredible. We could hold them at the community center or even at our studio. Exactly, Oliver said, nodding enthusiastically. We could make it a regular thing, offer different themes, styles, and techniques. I think it would be amazing. The thought of sharing their knowledge and passion with others filled Emma with a sense of purpose. Let's do it. We can plan out the details and start promoting it on our blog. As they continued to explore the festival, they brainstormed ideas for the workshops, from beginner painting classes to themed art nights. Emma felt a rush of excitement at the thought of nurturing creativity in others, just as Oliver had nurtured hers. Over the next few weeks, Emma and Oliver worked tirelessly to set up their first workshop. They designed promotional materials, created a curriculum, and spread the word through their blog and social media. The response was overwhelming, and they quickly filled the available spots for their first session. On the day of the workshop, Emma felt a mix of nerves and excitement as they prepared the studio. They had set up easels, laid out paints and brushes, and created a welcoming atmosphere filled with creativity. As the first participants arrived, Emma felt her heart race with anticipation. She greeted them warmly, introducing herself and Oliver, and quickly felt the energy in the room shift to one of excitement and eagerness. Thank you all for being here today. Emma began, her voice steady. We're so excited to share our passion for art with you and to guide you on this creative journey. Oliver stepped forward, his presence commanding yet inviting. Our goal is to help you find your own artistic voice, to encourage you to explore and express yourselves freely. Remember, there are no rules in art, just your unique expression. As they dove into the first activity, Emma felt a rush of joy. Watching the participants pick up their brushes and experiment with colors and techniques was incredibly rewarding. She moved through the room, offering encouragement and guidance, sharing tips and techniques as they painted. Throughout the session, Emma felt the same sense of connection and fulfillment she had experienced during her own creative journey. She was witnessing others discovering their own voices, and it filled her heart with warmth. By the end of the workshop, the room was alive with laughter and creativity. The participants proudly displayed their artwork, and Emma and Oliver moved through the space, admiring their creations and sharing compliments. You all did an amazing job, Emma said, her face glowing with excitement. I'm so proud of each and every one of you. As the workshop came to a close, participants expressed their gratitude, sharing how much they had enjoyed the experience. Emma felt a rush of fulfillment as they left, each person taking a piece of their creative journey with them. That was incredible, Oliver said, his face lit up with enthusiasm. I loved every moment of it. Me too, Emma replied, her heart racing with joy. I can't believe how rewarding that was. As they cleaned up the studio, Emma felt a sense of purpose settling in her chest. They had opened a door to something beautiful, an opportunity to connect with others and inspire them to pursue their passions. In the weeks that followed, Emma and Oliver continued to host workshops, each one filled with laughter, creativity, and new connections. They established a supportive community of artists who gathered to explore their creativity and share their journeys. But it wasn't just the workshops that flourished. Emma's own art continued to evolve. She found herself exploring new themes and experimenting with different techniques, her confidence growing with each piece she created. One evening, as they sat in the studio working on new pieces, Emma turned to Oliver, a spark of inspiration lighting up her eyes. What if we hosted a collaborative workshop where participants create pieces that reflect their personal journeys? Oliver's eyes widened with excitement. That's a brilliant idea. We can guide them to explore their emotions and translate them into art. It could be incredibly powerful. Emma felt a rush of enthusiasm as they brainstormed ideas for the workshop. They discussed techniques for self-exploration, how to convey emotions through color, and the importance of storytelling in art. As they continued to plan, Emma felt a sense of fulfillment wash over her. This was what she had been meant to do, to inspire others to embrace their creativity and share their stories. One weekend, they hosted the new workshop, and Emma felt a mix of nerves and excitement as they welcomed the participants. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation, and she could sense the energy in the room. "Welcome, everyone," Emma said, her voice steady. "Today, we're going to explore our personal journeys and express our emotions through art. I encourage you to dig deep and allow yourselves to be vulnerable." As they guided the participants through the exercises, Emma felt a deep sense of connection with each person in the room. She watched as they poured their hearts onto the canvas, creating pieces that reflected their unique stories. The experience was powerful, and Emma felt honored to witness their artistic journeys unfold. At the end of the session, the room was filled with vibrant artworks, each piece telling a story of courage and self-discovery. "Thank you all for sharing your journeys with us," Emma said, her heart full. "You've created something beautiful, and I'm so proud of each of you." As the participants began to leave, many expressed their gratitude for the experience. Emma felt a wave of fulfillment wash over her, knowing that she had made a positive impact on their lives. "That was amazing," Oliver said, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "You have a gift for connecting with people, Emma. It's incredible to see how your passion inspires others." Emma felt her cheeks flush with warmth. "Thank you, Oliver. I couldn't have done it without your support." As they cleaned up the studio, Emma couldn't shake the feeling of empowerment that had settled in her heart. She had embraced her identity as an artist, found love with Oliver, and created a space for others to explore their creativity. That night, as they sat on the couch, Emma turned to Oliver, a smile on her lips. "I feel like we're building something truly special together." "We are," he replied, his gaze filled with warmth. "And I'm so excited to see where this journey takes us." Emma felt a rush of gratitude as she leaned against him, feeling safe and cherished. She had come so far from where she once was, and with Oliver by her side, she knew they could face anything together. As spring blossomed into summer, Emma and Oliver continued to thrive in their artistic endeavors. Their workshops gained popularity, and they found themselves hosting events more frequently, each one filled with creativity and connection. Emma also received exciting news about her individual work. She was invited to showcase her art at a prominent gallery in the city, a dream opportunity that left her breathless with excitement. "I can't believe it," Emma exclaimed, her heart racing as she shared the news with Oliver. "This is an incredible opportunity, and it's happening so fast. I'm so proud of you," Oliver said, pulling her into a tight embrace. "You've worked so hard, and you deserve this." Emma felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. "I wouldn't be here without your support, Oliver. You've always believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself." As the opening of her solo exhibit approached, Emma felt a mix of nerves and anticipation. She was excited to share her work, but she also felt the weight of expectation. Would people connect with her art? Would they see the emotion behind each piece? As the opening night arrived, Emma stood in the gallery, surrounded by her paintings. Each piece was a reflection of her journey, her struggles, her triumphs, and her growth as an artist. The gallery was filled with guests, their conversations buzzing with excitement as they admired her work. When the time came for her presentation, Emma felt her heart race as she stepped up to the microphone. "Thank you all for being here tonight. This exhibit is a culmination of my journey as an artist and a reflection of my experiences. I hope my work resonates with you and inspires you to embrace your own creativity." As she spoke, Emma felt the nerves begin to fade, replaced by a sense of empowerment. She shared her story, her challenges, and the moments that had shaped her art, and the audience listened intently. When she finished, the applause was warm and genuine, filling her with a sense of fulfillment. Emma felt a rush of joy as guests approached her to share their thoughts and connect with her work. "Your art is so powerful," a woman said, her eyes shining with emotion. "It speaks to so many experiences. Thank you for sharing it with us." Emma smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you for saying that. It means so much to me." As the evening continued, Emma felt a sense of connection with everyone around her. She had embraced her journey and found her voice as an artist, and now she was sharing it with the world. Later in the night, as the gallery began to quiet down, Emma found Oliver standing at the edge of the room, a proud smile on his face. She walked over to him, her heart racing. "Did you see their reactions?" she said, her voice filled with excitement. "People actually connected with my work." "I did," Oliver replied, his gaze filled with warmth. "You were incredible, Emma. You poured your heart into this, and they saw that." Emma felt a rush of emotion as she looked into his eyes. "I couldn't have done it without you by my side. You've been my rock through all of this. And I always will be," he said softly, taking her hands in his. "You're amazing, and I'm so grateful to be part of your journey." As they stood there, Emma felt a sense of fulfillment wash over her. She had embraced her identity as an artist, found love with Oliver, and built a life filled with creativity and passion. "Thank you for everything, Oliver," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I'm so excited for our future together." "Me too, Emma," he replied, his gaze steady. "We're just getting started." With that, Emma leaned in, pressing her lips against his in a soft kiss. It was a kiss filled with love, hope, and the promise of everything that was yet to come. As they pulled away, Emma felt a wave of happiness wash over her. She had embraced her journey, found her voice, and built a life that reflected her passions. And with Oliver by her side, she knew that the possibilities were endless. The end.